Namaskar and welcome to this exciting show, Sattology Debunking Mythology. We have a very popular guest. Host is not as popular as the guest. The guest is really popular. And everyone loves his candor. Everyone loves his comments here. And probably is one of the most popular ones on our small channel. Today we are discussing American exceptionalism versus Indian idealism. So we'll try to evaluate the mindsets of the two countries and then why America still is the most innovative country on the planet and India can be the most innovative country in the planet. So without delay, let us welcome Shri Abhijit, Iyer, Mitra.
Thank you for
Namaskar and
having me.
welcome. So Abhijit, you have traveled a lot from India. You were in Australia, you were in US in the past, and you know the American psyche and American mindset, which has come post World War II, which has really made them being excessively proud of themselves at some times, but at the same time, uh, the most innovative country on the planet, and probably the only country which beats them to that is Israel. So what is your undertaking on what makes American exceptionalism a positive contributor to the world economy?
Look, there's several things about it. First and foremost, we have to recognize that, as much as people might hate capitalism, it's capitalism. If you look even at Israel, the quantum of its contribution to everything jumped the moment Netanyahu started liberalizing the economy out there. And let's not forget, Israel was a very socialist state. I mean, the whole idea of kibbutz and everything is ultra-socialist. Labor used to be in power for the longest period of time. Now labor, of course, has been decimated out there. So we've got that number one. Second, you have this whole idea of an American dream, because nothing's ever monocausal. So it's this guiding principle. The third has also been, things like the banking system. For example, in California, you can keep applying for a loan if you've gone bankrupt before. And a new proposal will be evaluated on its merits. Unlike, say, in Germany, where once you've gone bankrupt, no company will ever give you a loan again. Even if there's a bankrupt person on the board, a German company won't give you a loan anymore to start up a business. So it's a whole range of things that we're looking at that have happened cumulatively that make America so innovative. And sorry, the one thing I forgot, most important, is immigration. And I'm not talking about illegal immigration out here. I'm talking about, the measured immigration of high talent people out there. And we've seen unusually that some communities are able to maintain a consistent trajectory of being highly educated, say American Vietnamese or American Indians, American Persians. Is it American Persians or American Iranians? I don't know what they prefer, but yeah. So, you've seen that it allows you to be individual. At the same time, I think, it was predicted that China was going to overtake America. And I never believed that, because the way technology grows, it grows geometrically, not arithmetically. So what happens was, for me, the 21st century was always going to be the peak of America's dominance. And I think what's going to really harm America and get it down is this whole wokeness and socialism nonsense that's beginning to creep in. And I think this is mostly because of the way before, till the 80s, it was hard manufacturing and industry and proper jobs that had the bulk of, that accounted for the bulk of the economy. Since then, you'll find that almost all developed countries, about 65 to 75% of their economies, sometimes more, is dependent on services. Now, as important as services are, there's a huge market for humanities types in there. And I say this because I am a humanity type, so I feel completely free criticizing myself and my types. That there is a whole number of humanity types coming in and the gripe quotient going up. That the whole world owes you something. that you're discriminated against, you're a victim, so on and so forth, victimhood and everything. I mean, technically, I could totally feel victimized just because I'm bald, and not even completely bald. And even there, I could be completely victimized because, I could say that I neither fit here nor there, and that is another form of traumatic victimhood. I'm not accepted by bald people. I'm not accepted by the follically well endowed. I'm being facetious, but it's a whole set of things.
You put it very good opening remarks, and one thing one thing it really comes to my mind is that when we talk about American exceptionalism, there is a false pride and there's a real pride also. The people who have made America exceptional are those innovators and people who had a warm heart to way to work with other people. I would say Ronald Reagan was one of the best examples. May not be the ideal for the world, but for Americans it was the best because he reached across the aisle, and his one-liners are still famous. So the humor of his personality made everything best. Now, another point which comes to my mind is the Indian idealism, where or Vedic idealism, or India has the richest repository of knowledge in the whole world when you talk about Arthashastra. But of late, it has never been the Indianized enough to be used even in the Indian context. So America has invented capitalism, which is very close to the dharma or karma way of life, and they have followed it diligently, where everyone has an equal right or equal right to the opportunity to get work. But India also has the same philosophy, but there is no the that idealism in the Vedic. They have not implemented it yet. They've copied from everywhere else, but not copied fully. So, do you think that Indian history on Arthashastra and other treatises which are there, which the Western world studies a lot, can Indians use that to create their own unique model, which can be a guide to the world?
Yeah, absolutely. Look, I think we can, except right now we're so far behind, may not be for the next 100 years. And there's a problem to this. You see, Indian idealism as it stands today is just pure, undiluted hypocrisy. It's basically a weak country trying to make a virtue out of necessity and not doing a very good job even catering to its own necessities, which becomes highly problematic, which is why you see such policy discordance. I'm yet to have a prime minister who's actually going to thinking about things in the macro perspective about solving problems and so on and so forth. It doesn't happen. Now, there's always a danger looking back because India has become such a cut-based society. We don't even think if what we're doing suits our own ground realities. We've deluded ourselves as to the ground realities and we think certain cut and paste models work. They don't work, which then makes the hypocrisy more and more and more because you want to hide. Because there's this, there's this very cruel lack of acceptance of failure at one level, at the personal level. In America, you can keep failing, and like we discussed, you keep failing, and then everybody trusts you'll succeed at some point. Here, you don't get those chances. You see, you get one chance at best, and then you're knocked out. That's about it, and then you're condemned to be down the social ladder forever. So there's a whole issue out there where I find that Indian wisdom effectively died out about 1,500, 1,600 years back, and I'm being facetious again, but I coordinate this to the confirmed invention of the zero. The moment India discovered the zero, we decided to collectively reduce ourselves to zeros. Which is why there's been really nothing worthwhile to study coming out of India for the last 1,500, 1,600 years.
Everything which India has invented or speaks about has been usurped also. So Indo-Arabic numerals, nobody calls Hindi numerals, Indo-Arabic numerals, Proto-Indo-European languages, which is again Indian, but again has been usurped by the Western plagiarists, I would call them, not intellectuals. and can give any example that it is this thing, but still it is purely Hindu, purely Hindu. And the good things about Indian culture, where Indian culture always respected all aspects of society, and that has now gone to the West, again being imported into India. The same thing. So
But see, that's the point. India used to be the America of the ancient world in the sense that, you did what Frank Sinatra used to say, I did it my way, and you were celebrated for me doing it my way. You weren't a freak. You could do whatever you wanted. You could be an atheist and still be a Hindu. You can be you can believe that a stone is God and be a Hindu. You can believe that, stones cannot be gods and still be a Hindu. You can believe there's one God and be a Hindu. You can believe there's 100 gods and be a Hindu. There's no gods and be a Hindu. Like, I am an atheist. I'm a confirmed Charvak. And I mean, Hindus don't have an issue with accepting me, which is very alien to a Western mindset. How can you be an atheist and still be a Hindu? Well, I am, right? I eat beef and I'm still a Hindu. It's very difficult to explain. We went through what the process that people study in this case is the wars of religion. The 30 Years' War that happens in Europe in the 1600s, which sort of ends with the Treaty of Westphalia and settles everything, kind of. The Vedas, in that sense, were our Treaty of Westphalia. If you look at the beginning of the Vedas, it's about the Battle of the 10 Kings. These kings are going to war because one tribe isn't practicing the sacrifices properly. They aren't doing the prayers properly. They aren't putting the ghee into the fire properly, so on and so forth. It starts off on trivial grounds and it ends perfectly naturally where all these schools of thought are incorporated. And we say, just live and let live. That's it. Which doesn't mean to say we've been entirely peaceful, but the level of religious violence in India has been almost negligible compared to the population. And large-scale persecution almost never.
no, that's true. That's true. And India is the only country which has never persecuted Jews. That's on record in the world. That Jews are all have is, and it's just one example. So all the propagandists in America as well as the Western world can eat their crow when they work on Dalit rights being been infringed upon in India. But anyway, coming back to our topic, the exceptionalism of America came from economy and war. And very few Americans don't acknowledge it. But in my new book, I'm focusing a lot on the war, which were done by the European settlers against Native Americans, and large number of them are listening today. And so I have to touch that topic. There are only 5 million left, and there used to be 100 million in 1492. So only 5 million left now, and that too, half of them have been forced to convert to Christianity, because that was a condition of citizenship of America being given to the Native Americans. Now, American exceptionalism has also ignored that aspect of the society, where they have ignored the indigenous cultures and the technologies that they were using, both social and economic. But the Indian idealism, maybe good or bad or something, in last 70 years, they have protected the rights of a lot of native Indians in a big way. So in that way, Indian idealism has given voice to countless number of people. What is your opinion on that? What is the advice to the Americans also?
The thing is, it's all shades of gray. Nothing's ever rosy or clean cut. So, for example, India also had heaps of problems. When the white man came, and well, before that, the Turks had already come and colonized us for 700 years before the white man came and colonized us. And it wasn't, I mean, there are a lot of people that will tell you colonialism is the worst thing that happened to India. I think if you look at the statistics, that's simply not true. Okay, colonialism did a lot of good for India, unfortunately. I know it's a horrible, I'll get cancelled for saying this, but the facts are there on record. It wasn't all that bad for India. Okay, it was probably good. It reduced the amount of warfare and things like that, which was endemic in India. It reduced that massively. Turkic period before that was a genuine nightmare in the sense, I mean, I could never compare it to what the American Indians went through, because that was, that was a sort of biological warfare, early biological warfare wipeout in a sense. What, 90% fatalities because of smallpox and things like that. I mean, you look at the one thing the conquistadors never talk about in Bernardo de Sahagun's conquest of Mexico and then the conquest of Peru and all of that. What they're not telling you is 60, 70, 80, 90% of the population around them is dying because of these diseases that they had no natural immunity to. So it was a full-on, existential level wipeout. So our experience, even though it was terrible, has never been as bad as the American Indian experience. At the same time, I find, it's very important we don't idealize the past. That becomes a very dangerous thing. For example, in Mexico, when I was there, I'm fascinated by, say, human sacrifice. And they always try to downplay in both in Tenochtitlan and in Teotihuacan. So we think the Toltec pyramids and then the Aztec capital, which is now Mexico City. They never want to talk about human sacrifice. And, human sacrifice continued in India long after it continued in Mexico. So I know a lot of Indians aren't comfortable talking about it. I'm very comfortable talking about it because we exist in parallel. In the cities, you'll have the 21st century. In villages in India, in parts of India like the Sentinel Islands or the Andaman and Nicobar Islands, you are literally not even in the Chalcolithic age. You are in the Paleolithic Stone Age, literally the old Stone Age. You haven't even advanced past that, right? We can't get sensitive about these things. We have to be open and not get hurt when scientific facts present ourselves. Of course, if you don't want to, that is entirely your prerogative. But I come from that school of thought within Hinduism, which is all about, just go where the knowledge takes you. Never be scared of knowledge. Even if it goes against you, don't be scared of it. So, for example, there's something called the Crow Creek Massacre, which happened somewhere in America in 1300 and something, where a whole colony was butchered. But the local Indians wanted everything buried up and they didn't want any scientific studies done on the corpses and things like that. But see, it takes away from our historical knowledge. In Cahokia, for example, which is, I think it's in Pennsylvania. No, where is it? It's somewhere, Missouri, I think, somewhere. Excuse me. You have these amazing mounds which compete with Mexico in terms of their size, but they won't let you dig and things like that because there's a certain Native American sensitivity to that, this thing. I think it's just be open about it, but some people can take it, some people can't. I mean, you move the way you want. Be yourself. Like Frankie said, I did it my way. Do it your way.
So one of the important aspects of Indian idealism or the ancient Indian culture is that they were very innovative in their approaches and they followed what America does it today. At that time, they used to do what made them America of that time. Today, America is following more of the same principles. Now, one of the principles is that America never fights war on its shores. It fights 10,000 miles away or 5,000 miles away. And nobody can reach there. But unfortunately, due to immigration, a lot of those Middle Eastern problems and other political issues from India have reached American shores also, and which has given rise to a Marxism at the university level, and which is actually eating up the America of exceptional America. Same thing happened for India. The European classical liberalism, these philosophies are very dangerous for India. Social liberalism, because India has a mixed culture in the sense that all the philosophies simultaneously existed, like you said before. But these foreign invasion of ideologies have made US American exceptionalism weak. So people are saying that America should not be proud of its achievements. And Indian exceptionalism or idealism also weak, where India should not be proud of their original national heritage. So, what is your viewpoint on this?
Like I said, heritages are extremely complex, mixed phenomenons. It's like patriarchy. You can blame patriarchy for 100 things, but patriarchy also did a lot of good, right? So I find these absolutist positions very, very dangerous. The moment somebody comes to me and tells me I know everything, I'm suspicious of them. I am always suspicious of politicians who are goody two shoes. This is why I never liked Barack Obama, because as far as the public went, he could do no wrong. I would much rather have flawed people in charge, as in the flaws that you can see, not people who hide their flaws, because for me, they're fundamentally much more trustworthy than somebody flawless. So with both with American and Indian exceptionalism, I think there's this whole, not the exceptionalism, where it's going now with foreign dogmas and doctrines, is that there's this belief that somehow this European post-national reality is the only reality to have, and that Europe is the trend setter for the rest of the world. And that's complete and utter rubbish, because that's still a hangover. It is the most racist colonial hangover you can ever have. To think, India, in that sense, the coming together of so many different diverse people. India is the European Union with the military and foreign policy union without the fiscal union. Unfortunately, Indian fiscal policy is worse than European fiscal policy. Europe, on the other hand, is like India with financial union, but without the military and foreign policy. So, this whole thing, people move according to their own genius, according to their own circumstances, according to their own histories, and so on and so forth. There's no one size fits all. And the moment people tell you with moral certitude, those are two things to be very suspicious of: moral certitude and one size fits all solutions. They never work.
You touched upon in the last answer, you touched upon Obama. Now, there is an inherent problem over there, which is charisma based politics versus politics for the benefit of people, the Lok Sangraha. So the whenever you have an individual driven politics where one person is a star, where America has always lived that way. Ronald Reagan was a star. Obama was a star. Like, not just a leader, is a star. So do you think that the people get carried away with charisma and lose sight of the important objectives? The Indian idealism is based on karma, not on charisma. So what is your point on that? Charisma versus karma.
I think democracy has been irretrievably perverted ever since you started having television and now internet. Because before that, what used to happen in a democracy was you read what these people said. You had no way of knowing their personal charisma, because if Abraham Lincoln went going around campaigning, you just see him once when he came to your town, and that's about it. When radio comes, you listen to them on the radio. There is no showmanship. You can't say a man is ugly or a man is not ugly. So, for example, you tell me, in this day and age, would an FDR, who was a cripple, ever have won an election? Impossible. They would have said, "Oh, handicapped man, I'm not voting for that man."
Exactly.
And, no chance. So I think there's a very good case to be made, and unfortunately it's a Luddite solution, to go back to blind voting, which is you're allowed to hear candidates, but you're not allowed to see candidates.
Fantastic point.
Because then you are judging them only on policy. And, a speech may talk to you, but then when you go away, as long as you're not attracted by the entire package, two adoring children looking so lovingly at their father, waving at daddy, and loving wife looking lovingly at husband. Oh my God, best husband ever. You don't know if he's beaten up black and blue and the makeup she's using is actually hiding all her black eyes. But oh, my lovey-dovey husband, la-di-da-di-da. You shouldn't have that. It should be it. The amount of damage. I mean, look, TV has done a lot of good. I'll never agree with the fact that TV has somehow uh, destroyed books and the knowledge you could get from books, because it's expanded our horizon so much more. You learn so much more through TV as well if you watch the right stuff. But there is a case to be made that in terms of democracy, it has absolutely destroyed it. And in fact, the internet, like things like Twitter, they've taken us back to the dangerous phase of democracy. This is the phase of democracy where Socrates was forced to drink hemlock by the Athenian agora. Okay, because there's a very fine line separating a republic from a democracy. The republic prevents the excesses of the mob. Without a republic, you are essentially a mob, and it's a very, very dangerous phase. And I think we've gone back there.
Excellent point you made, and I love the point of blind voting, because if we learn about Ram and Krishna through ears, not through eyes, and that's a fabulous thing about the Indian culture, is that you hear from the ears, and I think, and then you can make up the right image of a person, because
But see, it's also very important that when you hear it with your ears, for example, I have never liked drama. I've never felt any kind of attraction or anything to Rama. Krishna, on the other hand, I absolutely adore, because he's my kind of guy. He's naughty as hell. He sleeps around with married women, but he's completely emancipated because he believes women should also have a great time. Uh, I mean, imagine in that day and age for this kid to be so open-minded and liberated. Married women should also be allowed to have sex outside marriage. And notice in the South, the name we have for Krishna is Radha Krishna. He's not named after his wife, Satyabhama Krishna or Rukmini Krishna. He's named after Radha, who was never his wife. Why? Because her love for him was the purest love, because she never expected anything in return from him. Right? And that is the kind of unconditional love that was celebrated in that wedding. Radha was married to another man. Right? And Krishna used to go around being naughty. So in that whole, that Jagadodharana episode where his mother opens his mouth and she sees the entire universe in his mouth, she realizes he's God, but it doesn't matter to her because she's his mother, so she continues whacking him and spanking him when he needs to get whacked and spanked. Because she's like, okay, you can do your God business elsewhere, but here you're my son, and as long as you're in my house, you're going to follow my bloody rules and, pull the pants down and whack, 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 like a naughty little kid kind of thing. And the way he deals with Draupadi, he is able to keep a relationship completely platonic. And Draupadi is his best friend. He promises her, I will always protect you. And he tells her, I'm going to see to it, I will see to it there will be no compromise. I will see to it that there will be a war to avenge you. So, and we hear all of this. We haven't seen all of this. So, when you hear certain things, when you read certain things, it impacts you very differently. I've always found visual medium they say a picture is worth 1,000 words. Well, a picture can also lie, unfortunately. It carries you away and it distracts more than it focuses.
Yeah, there is a lot more that meets the eye, and unfortunately in today's Photoshop world, people can appear to be totally different on social media than what they are in reality. And therefore the study was there last year that Facebook has created more depression, has created more divorces, and broken more families than ever. And even though it can be a boon of communication, but it has done irreparable damage to the society or collective psyche of society. Now, coming back to our point on American exceptionalism, there was a time, and I would say this generation of Americans is lacking that there was a time where Americans used to consider themselves as a provider for the whole world. They may do it incorrectly, totally wrong. They will go to all parts of the world and try to say how A- Americanism can give them jobs. And so you'll see that America is a country which made China rich. America is a country which made Asian countries rich. None of them were rich if America was not there. And that was the exceptionalism, which is good because it brought money to people who had, or wealth to people who didn't have. But in today's world, American exceptionalism has degenerated to a lot where Christian evangelicalism, started with Clinton's, has become the norm of Americanism, which is not Americanism. Americanism means completely different from any type of religious activity, which is based on proselytization. Sorry, proselytization. I have a difficult time pronouncing this word. So difficult, then that has become American exceptionalism, which is totally unfounded. Not not the
So I have a slightly different interpretation of this. I think the only thing the Americans insisted on was you shouldn't be a communist. That was sort of the hard limit. Because if you look at countries like, say, South Korea, Taiwan, Greece, and all of that, they democratized in their own sweet time. It wasn't shoved down. I think this whole human rights paradigm of shoving certain things down certain people's throats, it starts post Cold War and post the collapse of communism. It wasn't there before. The second thing is, remember, American capitalism was very different from British and French mercantilism. British and French mercantilism were always destructive, whereas America didn't really have this sort of emotional attachment or pride in a colony. So, it always looked at things purely from a monetary point of view. Look, is it easier to just outsource jobs out there? Let's outsource it out there. And that's how Asia became rich. They've been trying to do that with India. India is, of course, like a stubborn water buffalo. We never, even if people are trying to help us, we think that they owe us a favor for trying to help us. They should be grateful for the honor of trying to help us. And so we just keep spitting in their face. On the other hand, we're so timid and coy and absolutely supine and spineless with the Chinese. Why? Because the Chinese treat us like dirt. So if you look at Chinese National Day in Delhi, when their embassy hosts a party, you will see at least 4 or 5 ministers, the vice president, who all whatnot going out there. When you have American National Day, there won't be a single minister or anyone who will turn up because there's this diffidence. On one hand, it's because we want that recognition from America. So it's a good thing, I guess, in a sense. On the other hand, we're shit scared of China. And I think it was General Norman Schwarzkopf who said this, the guy who led the 1991 war on Iraq. If you grab them by the balls, the hearts and minds will follow. And I think with India, at least, America needs to start getting a bit tougher.
Now, another aspect is the Indian idealism. Now I'm going to speak for India. India has so many things to offer at the people-to-people level. India is already the largest consulting provider for American companies, where most of the McKinseys, Accentures, IBMers, and all these companies have maximum number of Indian employees contributing to American economy. So can that be a model of export of Indian idealism or the Vedic culture or the sciences based on those cultures?
It could if they actually brought the best of India with them. I mean, tell me, we've kind of reduced our culture to there's no organized training. Tell me, how many kids do you know who go to Hindu religious classes? And if they go to Hindu religious classes, they're just taught bhajans and prayers there's no philosophical discourse. They're not taught the meaning because it's just, you do you kind of an attitude. So I find that the people who come to America have a very mixed this thing. You can find very enlightened people. Unfortunately, you also get the worst kind of trash. Uh, I'm sorry, I'm being so blunt, but unfortunately, you do. My mom, every time she goes to a sari shop here, there's something called the NRI section, which is the completely overpriced section. And she always threatens the shop attendant that if you take me to the NRI section, I'm going to chop off your hands and arms. I don't want to go there because that's the most tasteless section of the shop. Uh, Unfortunately, it's also true. It's. I think it's that whole thing of going there and coming from a culture where you don't have much, realizing your dream, you're bound to have that sort of yuppie sensibilities. Um, so it's, I mean, I'm sure I would have had it. It's just that three generations of my family before me went on improving their stocks. So I think I'm not that bad. I'm sure hundreds of people will look at Abhijit's taste. I mean, they probably just look at this and go, "Oh my God, such a scruffy guy." But yeah, I mean, yeah,
So thank you so
I
much. I know you have to go somewhere. Thank you and appreciate your candor. And I think you're one of the stars of our shows. So thank you all the viewers for watching Abhijit Live. We'll come back with some more shows, and there's a popular demand on China versus India, and and also the comparison of cultures of China and India, which are so similar. So thank you for watching. I look forward to hearing you back. And please do watch the YouTube video and subscribe. Thank you and namaskar.